Okay. Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Indie Film Cafe's Criterion Watch.
Criterion Watch.
I'm your old pal, the Moo Cow, a.k.a. Paulie Presenza, and I'm joined by...
Jonathan Moody, your co-host.
Outstanding. And today, we are doing a movie I've been wanting to do for some time now, and it is the classic 1940s film Cat People.
Cat People.
The original, made by Jacques Tourneur and produced by Val Lawton and starring Simone Simon.
Is this like, because did they make the movie Cats based on this or something? Or anything?
No, they made Cats based on, I forget who it was. Somebody wrote a book.
Oh, okay.
It was based on a book. This is different.
Okay, because they are cat people too, so I figured maybe.
Yeah, no.
This is a different Cat People.
Yeah. No, this is the 40s when, they had just finished the great 30s era of classic monster movies, the Universal movies. And then in the 50s, of course, they had a lot of the atomic monster movies. This is in between. It was right at the time when film noir was big. So it was really a blending of horror and film noir that has only really recently come back. Ooh. So it's really good. It's very stylish. It's very cool. And it's a fantastic film.
And it's my first time watching it, so I'm looking forward to it.
There you go.
All right. We'll be right back. Yeah.
So we are back.
We are back.
And so this was the first time you saw it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
I thought it was good. I think we were talking about it right after, and I thought it was a good movie. I don't know how much of a rewatchability this would. I'm still gonna buy it like at some point, probably next year. But because I like to buy all the movies that we do for Criterion Watch. But it's still one of those, like, we've seen plenty of like horror films made in like the 40s and stuff like that. Like was The Innocents and and things like that. And those are just, I don't know. Those are just, to me, a little bit more fun. This is just sort of, like you say, kind of melodrama-y.
Yeah,
like
and it's a B movie. The thing about it is that what this movie is famous for is at a time when, like, the Universal movies were all about showing you the monsters. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the budget for that.
Right.
So
you can tell.
This is all made in such a way that the audience has to fill in through their imagination what's going on.
It's kind of reminds me of like Jaws, where they don't show the shark until they have to show the shark or whatever. But then, and that was just because the shark wasn't working or whatever, the robot. This they could have done stuff, but they just ended up, I guess. I mean, they could have. I don't know. They could have done makeup effects to make her look more like a cat or something like that.
That stuff would have been expensive, but they throw it in a little bit here and there, just the way she walks. The angles of the lights, the shadows. The one part where she just scratches the pillow to shreds.
Or just the sound effects of the growls. And
there are subtle clues that they throw in there.
Yeah, I mean, no, I get that, but it's just, I don't know, maybe...
That's why the remake in the 80s was a little bit more out there, a little more open with some of that stuff.
Yeah. You were saying there was a remake. I was like, okay.
It was actually pretty good. It's not as good as this, but
really,
it's very different.
That was not as good as this. That this was better than.
Only because it lacks the style. That's really what you take from a movie like this, is the way it's shot, the way it's lit, all the production values. For a B movie, this had Universal level production done.
Right.
And it's a beautifully shot film.
Just not the stars. Like, there's no stars in this movie.
Not really. Right? I mean, Simone Simon and Kent Smith, they're okay. They're actors. They're B-movie actors, though.
Right.
They're.
I love the doctor. Like I was saying, he reminded me very much of like Vincent Price.
Yeah.
And he did a great job. Like if they could have afforded a Vincent Price, that would have been the perfect person.
Right.
For them.
So I'll read you the thing from the back of the Criterion box. It says, the first of the horror films producer Val Lawton made with RKO Pictures redefined this genre by leaving its most frightening terrors to its audience's imagination. Simone Simon stars as the Serbian emigre in Manhattan who believes that because of an ancient curse, any physical intimacy with the man that she loves, played by Kent Smith, will turn her into a feline predator. Luton, a consummate producer-auteur who oversaw every aspect of his projects, found an ideal director in Jacques Tourneur, a chiaroscuro stylist adept at keeping audiences off kilter with startling compositions and psychological innuendo. Together they eschewed the canned effects of the earlier monster movies in favor of shocking with subtle shadows and creative audio cues. One of the studio's most successful movies of the 1940s, Cat People raised the creature feature to a new height of sophistication and mystery. And there is a lot of film noir-ish stuff in there. And that's why I like it. It's a very interesting blend of the two genres that you hadn't seen before. This is the first time they had done anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, it was really well done like that. It was only an hour and 12 minutes. So if you're like looking for like kind of a short running time,
if you were to take a slice of Dracula with Bela Lugosi and a slice of Maltese Falcon with Humphrey Bogart and mix them in, you'd get something like this a little bit, in my opinion.
Maybe. I still think that like and the acting was okay. Like I believed everybody. Like nobody did a bad job. Nobody overacted. In my opinion, it's just it was just so sort of dull in my mind of like when people like spoke to each other. It was sort of monotone-ish and up until like maybe some parts changed up. I don't know. It just seemed.
Well, I think Simone Simon is probably the one most guilty of that because of the way what she's playing and the fact that she's
supposed to be a cat.
Yeah, and English is probably a second language for her.
Yeah, so she was probably really from like Russia or something.
I think she's French.
Oh, she's French. Okay.
But I thought Kent Smith and Jane Randolph, who plays Alice, I thought they were both very good.
I absolutely loved her.
And you could see there was a chemistry between the two of them.
I saw her. I literally he was kind of, to me, it was kind of a lump of coal to me.
I think he had it. I think he was just simply ignoring it or not registering it until it was too late.
He was kind of like just this. To me, he was just a bland guy. Like and it wasn't his fault. Maybe it was the way he was written, but it just was he was sort of boring. I don't know. I didn't hate his performance. I just thought it was like I would have loved to see a more established, like Gregory Peck or somebody in that role. Like if you had
Dana Andrews would have probably been the guy that they would have picked.
I mean,
and they just couldn't afford him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you could have picked a really good actor from the 40s that you could have
or even
obviously
Ray
can't
Milland
afford.
might have worked.
Ray Milland, I could see that. All these actors who I feel like that guy just sort of was, and a lot of it I feel like was probably also direction, told what to do sort of by that Jacques guy who I think also English was probably his first language too, so there's always a little bit of lost in translation stuff going on. So I feel like I feel like it could have been better handled, but I still liked him enough where like he kept me interested in what was going on, or whatever. I felt like he was sort of the boringest of all of them. Like I like the two girls, and I love like the idea of a cat fight thing between them and everything because it sort of worked. But like, I didn't. This is a 1940s
1942
thing.
Actually,
right? But this is a 40s thing where the characters fall in love and they're like married in 2 minutes,
right?
And I like. First of all, that never goes well. Look at all the Hitchcock movies like Rebecca and Suspicion and stuff like that, where that happens, and then all of a sudden, the people get like murdered or whatever, from it. It never goes well. So here's a lesson: if you fall in love, at least wait a year. I say wait a year. Then you'll start to, move in after 6 months. Then you'll find out whether or not you want to be with the person.
Well, that's just it. In the 40s, you couldn't really do that. That wasn't a thing.
What? You gonna move in with each other?
Not really. That wasn't socially accepted.
Yeah, and I know in film you weren't even allowed to show the people in the same bed. You had to show them in separate beds, which wasn't real because they were actually in the same bed, but they weren't supposed to be in the same bed. I remember Ed Wood got in trouble because he invited Dolores Fuller up into his room and they were not even married. They were girlfriend, boyfriend, and it was not good. And he got into a lot of trouble with that.
But they worked together and did a number of different things. I'm talking about Jacques Tourneur and Val Lewton. And so Out of the Past is probably another one of the really big ones that he did. That's a little
I've
bit
heard of
more,
that.
A little
That's
bit
a
more
noir.
film noir-ish kind of horror. Leopard Man and...
He likes cats.
oh, yeah.
Leopards.
Curse of the Demon is probably my favorite. So we'll probably end up doing that one on Film Freaks at some point.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good one.
What's it called?
Curse of the Demon.
Curse of the Demon.
It's really, really good. Sometimes it's Night of the Demon, Curse of the Demon. It kind of got released a couple of times.
Different.
But Cat People's the first one that they did together. So, and he also did
So Val and Jacques
together. Yeah,
worked
they
together.
also did I Walked with a Zombie.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, that's
I
pretty
think
good
that's
too.
getting a Criterion release.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, if I'm correct, it might be a couple more Val Lewton projects are getting
good.
released on.
But the thing was, of course, again, he's dealing with smaller budgets, so he has to make up for it in other ways, and it's shadow play and like they said, audio sound cues and
Yep.
things. Like when she's walking, and then you hear the footsteps walking after her, and then all of a sudden they stop because she
stopped.
changed. She
Yep.
changed into the cat.
Yep, and so she can't hear him as
Right.
well or whatever.
I love when she's in the pool.
I do. I love that scene.
Oh my God, she's in the weird shadows from the water are reflecting everywhere, and you can't tell what's what, and then you hear the growling, and she's like all freaked out. That was great.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That was a great scene. It's probably my favorite scene. But see, notice how that involved them.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
those are my favorite scenes are them. Or I like the Doctor. I thought the Doctor had... I think he had personality. That was it. I think that's it. Because I feel like the main guy didn't have a personality.
Well,
I think that might be the
he
problem.
was kind of just like a nice guy, whereas the Doctor is kind of swarmy.
He's skeezy.
Yeah, he's like maneuvering his way in, and then he gets
he gets what he wants, but not what he really wants.
Because he didn't really believe her. And
Well,
that's just it. They believed her, and he didn't.
Yeah, and they try to warn him. No. She's dangerous. Oh, she's not dangerous. I'll be fine.
Right.
You idiot. But that happens in all these kind of movies. Is
Right,
like the
right.
people don't believe it, and then but in real life that's gonna happen because if I told you there was a cat person walking around, you would probably be like, whatever, right? Yeah, okay. And then if they attacked you and you saw it with your own eyes, you might be a little, you might not be so skeptical about that.
Right, right.
So, I mean, I
and
don't
then
know.
the other thing is, the other star, in my opinion, of this movie is the New York City in the 40s. It looks
beautiful.
so beautiful. Just, all the shots of the stone and the way that the light just reflected off of it was beautiful. All the ironwork, all the sort of Bauhaus architectural imagery. There's all kinds of really, really great stuff. So that's why I love this movie. Just the way it's shot, the way it's lit, and all the shadows and everything, and compositions are fantastic.
Well, was it New York in the 40s, and you also loved like New York in the 70s.
Oh yeah,
and stuff
60s
before,
and 70s.
When it was dirty and disgusting, right?
Yep,
back
yep.
then. And so it had a character back then. Nowadays it just looks like every other city that, because it's been gentrified.
It's been Disneyfied and all that.
Gentrified and I think it's in the 40s it didn't look very, it looked clean. I liked the look of it or whatever. I would and I bet it wasn't as expensive to live there as it is now. Well, obviously as it is now. But back then it was still probably not one of the highest places to live. It was probably.
But it definitely had its sketchy parts too.
Because remember, we watched that movie Big, that took place in New York or whatever in the 80s, and even in the 80s, it was still like, you know, getting a hotel was cheap, you know, and everything like that. It was cheaper. Nowadays, it's so fucking expensive to live in
it's
New
crazy.
York or LA that it's just like almost nobody even wants to live there anymore, you know?
No, you can't. And you know, it's gotten so expensive that all the artists are gone, and all the regular
All the
people who work
filmmakers.
regular jobs can't be there either.
All the filmmakers who used to love to live in New York. I think Lloyd Kaufman left New York in a way. Like, I think he still comes back and works in the
all
office,
the people
but,
that made New York what it was had to leave.
yeah,
So,
it's just too
it's a
much.
shame, but it's nice because in this film you get to see it back when in its, you know, the Empire period, when it was at its peak, before the big decline when it started to lose money, and into the 50s.
Who would have thought that you would have you know, you could have got like picture like I don't know if the Twin Towers existed then.
No.
You know, well, whatever. Whenever you could have gotten pictures, video of the Twin Towers, you should have got it when you could, you know, or whatever before.
Yeah, I think it was late 70s sometime
When that
in the
got
70s.
made?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware, but I know it was. It had to be after the 40s because they probably did not make huge buildings like that.
No, they had the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building. Those were the two big ones in New York
And the
City.
Statue of
Those are
Liberty.
the ones I saw. Yeah,
But that's not building, but it's a landmark.
and it's small, not compared to those two buildings.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting, and I like the music. It's a little on the soap opera side, but then that's, you know, you look at a Orson Welles movie or a Hitchcock movie of the period, and they're going to have similar kinds of movies.
Yeah.
But again, those guys had bigger budgets than what this guy had. So to be able to pull out a movie that makes it look so nice, in my opinion, is really, really good. Plus all the in-camera effects, you know. So I don't know. I really liked it. It's not something I watch all the time. Every now and again. It's been a few years since I've seen it. I got to see it on the big screen.
Well,
The
you got to
last
see it
time I
on the.
saw it.
Wow.
Yeah,
when
back
was
at that was back in the 80s when I was at the
Wait,
University
so you
of
haven't seen
Delaware.
it since the 80s?
Well, I haven't seen it in the big theater since the 80s. I've seen it since. When I bought it, like 3 years ago, I watched it. But when I
So you
saw it on
bought
the
this
big
from
screen,
one of those sales or whatever?
when I saw it on the big screen last time at the State Theater, it was very, very impressive to see, you know, just the way that it looked in black and white. It was just beautiful.
I do love this like art where you can see the you know, you see her face and then you see like the eye of the thing. Also, I really like the idea, like, because like in the beginning of the movie, you meet her. She's doing art in front of the panther and stuff. Like she's, I guess, sketching the panther, and then she meets the guy and goes home, and he's smitten with her so much so that he gets a cat. But the cat is in the box for a while until the cat goes meow and wants to get out, and then he brings the cat to the girl, and she does not like the cat. Doesn't like her.
The cat does not like her at all.
And then she goes to the pet store, and all the pets are freaking out. And so you know from the very beginning, there's definitely something really fucked up about this chick. And yet this guy is looking at all these red flags, and he's just like...
Well, and there's an effect on him, too, because remember, he's talking about how he feels he's got to be with her, and he can't keep his eyes off of her, he's got to touch her. So there's definitely something going on with her that's attracting him but repelling everybody else. So
I don't know, because, well, I mean, he ends up getting with the other girl, Alice, and I think that's just because... I mean, dude wasn't getting any, like, nothing happening, nothing, not even a kiss.
Yeah, no.
He's not allowed to kiss her because we find out if she kisses somebody or is, like, intimate or whatever, he will, you know, kill the person. And so she tells the doctors, alright, so first of all, I called the psychiatrist, right? Like I said, therapist needs to be called in. So he's like, we need somebody who will believe you. And blah, you know, and try to help you through this thing. Let's talk to a psychiatrist. I'm like, psychiatrist probably wouldn't, you know, psychologist or whatever, would not believe her, you know, because they are, you know.
Well, and it's interesting because it's not like they did talk therapy. He puts her under hypnosis.
Right, and that's what I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking in my head because I thought about the movie Donnie Darko, and I thought about the hypnosis scene. I'm like, that'd be interesting if they did hypnosis and he got to learn more about what she really believes in her head.
Which really isn't a thing. It really isn't a thing. It's
Well,
one of those. It's one of those things where Hollywood has sort of taken it and blown it up to what it really is.
I don't know. I kind of want a therapist now just to see if I can get some.
Well, therapy is real, but not hypnotism is
Was
not.
it hypnotherapy? I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to do that to me, bring it on, because I want to find out more information that I haven't unlocked in my brain. And that was the other thing is she talks about mind versus the soul and stuff. She has that really good line about it, and the doctor is shocked. Like it's taken therapists a long time to figure out the mind and the soul. The difference between the mind and the soul. And you figured it out quickly, or whatever.
Like, that's very presumptuous of me, I guess.
Yeah, but it was really nice. It was because at first he does the therapy, the hypnotherapy with her, and he does find out all the stuff she really truly believes, but she doesn't remember any of what she said because that's part of the hypnosis. Is they're supposed to tell you at the end you're not going to remember what you told me or whatever,
or make you cluck like a chicken.
That would have been kind of a funny scene. Is like or cat meow meow every time your husband says I love you. Meow. See, that would be a comedy, not a horror film. But I don't know. I like the therapy stuff, and then later she doesn't go back to him because I think she's too scared. Like she doesn't want to know more stuff, and I think that was another problem I have with the movie is like the character just never wanted to really evolve, and it just kind of after a while I'm like,
well, yeah, and she even says in the beginning that she's been trying to avoid all of this exact stuff that she's put herself into, but for whatever reason, I guess because he's a nice looking guy, she decides to do it.
She doesn't really have that interest in him. Like she doesn't want to be intimate with him because she doesn't want to kill him. Which, I mean, I totally understand that.
She should have listened to her internal voice is what should have happened. But then again, nobody wants to be alone for their whole life either.
I guess. And she can't be with anyone, like, period.
Well, now the interesting thing to me is the way I would have approached it, but again, this is a way that it would possibly solve the problem so that it's not the same kind of film. But rather than going to a psychiatrist who might believe her about it, if it's a real curse, then you need to go see a priest or somebody somebody who can counteract that. Right. And that's not even brought up as a thing.
No.
So, or it seemed like when they went to different, like the Serbian restaurant, and that other Serbian woman was there. Say, go to somebody else who understands the legends or understands.
Yeah,
the stuff.
That lady never comes back. She's never brought back. She's like, and she looked like I thought she was gonna be back. I thought she was gonna be she was gonna show up again or something.
And that happens in the remake.
You see, that makes sense. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't explore that. I just it feels like that would have solved, I think, so many of the problems in this movie, in my opinion, because it would have added a depth to her character.
I'll have to show you the second one or the remake. I think it's Paul Schrader who made it.
Oh well, there you go. And, Taxi Driver.
And it's good. Again, it's different. It lacks all of the sort of really cool production stuff that this has, but it cleans up the narrative and it makes it.
Makes it more interesting. Yeah.
And it's more interesting to modern audiences because there's more violence and there's a lot more nudity. I mean, so there's more modern stuff in there. A lot of people, it was very mixed. Like, some people really didn't like it. I kind of liked it, though, and I was glad I saw it in the theater. The remake.
Remake.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but
I believe it's Malcolm McLaren is in there, too.
So you saw both this and the remake in the theater.
Yeah.
When how did you see this one? Was it just playing in a retro thing?
Yeah,
or something?
This was at the State Theater. I got to see it then.
Okay. Where's that, in Delaware?
Used to be in Delaware. It's gone now.
That's okay. So So that would be like the equivalent of probably
Narrow.
the Narrow right now. Like
Except bigger. It was a huge one.
I would love for like the Narrow to play something like this.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing it on the big screen.
It was really good on the big screen.
But I just once again I'm so glad it was only an hour and 12 minutes because I honestly I was starting to get really bored, and it's just because like everything that happens happens off screen or you see it whatever, and that was for cheap.
Yeah, and the thing is that because I've seen this movie a number of times, I no longer watch this film for the story. The story
Right.
doesn't really interest me. The story's
Yeah.
kind of meh. It's the visuals and it's the auditory stuff and it's the experience of the film that I love. That's why I go back to it and why I enjoy the film, is just being able to see it, and then seeing it up on the big screen simply enhances that and makes it even better. So yeah.
So since this is a B movie, why did Criterion pick it up, do you think?
Because it is a landmark film. It is the first time that they really melded film noir and horror, which others tried to do and weren't quite as successful. And it's kind of a landmark and important film.
Mm-hmm.
So it just wasn't made with the big budget of its day, which most of RKO's didn't have the budget of, say, Universal or anybody else. They just were smaller.
Well, but see, to go to an example of Citizen Kane, which was made years before this, I think, or wait, like a year before this, I think it was 1941 or 40, or whatever. It was close to this time period. But RKO spent, whatever money on that. They had no big stars at that time. Everybody sort of became a star after Citizen Kane. But that was still like really well done with the visuals.
Oh yeah.
And with the story. Like
all the production
all of it.
Great.
All of it. And I think because something like that, is out there, right? Like a film like, excuse me, I got the hiccups. A film like what is it? Cat People, which is wonderful, but lacks sort of the cool story.
Yeah, it doesn't have the scope of Citizen Kane because Citizen Kane is more of an epic story, an epic production. Cat People's just a small little horror movie, but they made it in such a way that it ended up outproducing and being much more popular, much more well loved and well received than expected. This was just supposed to fill in a little slot, and it turned out to be much of a bigger deal.
It's funny because Citizen Kane was a bomb.
Yeah, I know. And that's
in
a
the
shame.
box office, but then later became a bigger hit when the people watched it in the theaters and whatnot.
Well, and part of that was because RKO didn't really know what the hell to do with it, and they didn't really push it or advertise it or promote it the way that they should have.
But they did that with this. Do you think?
They did it after it became a thing. After people were like, "Oh, wow, this is cool." Yeah. So, and that's why they gave them more money to work on other collaborations later on.
See, and that's the thing. Like even in the 40s, probably, like a movie like this would be more popular because a lot of it's just talk.
Yeah.
And visuals. But
and they just didn't have the money because of the war to spend on the big Universal style films that they had, or even the silent movies. I mean, they used to spend a lot of money on the big productions there. They just couldn't do that. That's why RKO and you look at the Bela Lugosi movies of the 40s, and they're all low
like
budget
Zombie?
stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's some good stuff in there, but it's all much lower budgeted.
We were doing the whole look into my eyes thing earlier because especially with the hypnosis stuff, I don't know. It was fun. Like it was an enjoyable movie. Like I said, I would love to own it, and I'd love to listen to the commentary and look at the special features at some point. But it's a little
story-wise,
slow.
it's a little slow.
It's a little slow. And
This is a movie you watch for the visuals.
yeah. So if you haven't seen it, kind of ruined a lot of stuff. So sorry, but if you haven't seen it, we would definitely recommend checking it out because it's one of those films I think that people should check out.
Mm-hmm.
Like they should see it at least once. If it's on a streaming thing, check it out. I would suggest buying it from them or renting it or whatever you can, but a disc, because it did look beautiful.
So there is a movie, and I can never remember the title because I can't remember anything anymore. But we did it early on for Forgotten Horror Classics, and I showed it to Lenore. And it's a version where they go down into Mexico, and it's more of like a leopard as opposed to a Black Panther. And that was also shot really, really well.
We did see a leopard, though.
Yeah, we did.
Which was really weird, because the guy who's like, I don't know, the janitor or whatever for that stuff, the zookeeper, he was mentioning the leopard, right, and blah blah blah, but he was talking in front of a panther, and then we didn't see the leopard till later, so there actually was a leopard. But
I should show you that film so that you could see the how they compare. The other one is also sort of a low budget film, but it is equally, it's not quite the same impact, but it definitely has, for being a B movie, some really good stuff. And there's a couple of really good shots in that film too. Lenore liked it.
Yeah, in this movie I liked the scene. I definitely love the scene where she's in the pool, and then I love the scene where her and the guy are at work and they get the call, and then you see her basically as the cat person, or whatever, as the cat, and then they kind of tell her to leave her alone, whatever, right? And it kind of leaves them and everything, and
there's the shadow of the cross when he takes the slide rule down.
Yeah, I mean, and I know this is cheap, and I know this wasn't, this probably couldn't have done it, but they have the story of King John or whatever, and I would have loved to see flashback scenes with King John and the cat.
You do get to see a dream sequence where he's in there.
In the
nice.
new one?
No, in that one.
Oh yeah. A little bit, but like sort of. You see his face.
They got what they could afford.
Yeah, exactly. But I would have loved to see like like a little bit more
of the back,
that
backstory.
Because and
sounds like a fascinating backstory.
Film is show, not tell.
Yeah.
Plays are tell, not show.
And
really,
there was an early jump scare before jump scares were a thing, where she's being stalked and she's running and running and running, and then you hear this screech like it's almost like a cat, but it turns out no, it's a bus, and it just boosh. Comes out of nowhere, just right in front of her, and startles her, and startles all of us.
He says something about,
hey, you getting in here, toots?
No, but he was like, you look like you seen a ghost. And then she was like, you didn't see it? I was like, nope. Like, it was funny. I mean,
you got to figure, in 1942, before they had that sort of thing, that probably scared a lot of people in the audience.
Yeah. I mean, when did The Uninvited come out? Because I think that had some jump scares too.
48, I think.
Oh, so it was after. All right.
Yeah.
So The Uninvited and Innocence, which I think was what, 60s.
60.
So
1960.
Yeah. So I mean I don't know. I really appreciate it. And now that you're saying more about the visuals and stuff, I mean, I guess the first time I'm really looking for the story, or whatever.
Sure.
Later I might check it out for visuals and kind of thing. Especially like if I listen to commentary or something, all I can see is the visuals and just listen to what the person has to say. That might be a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it has definitely impacted other directors and cinematographers afterwards. They've taken a lot of inspiration from the way that the movie was shot.
There you go.
So, yeah, just if you're a movie person alone.
Guillermo del Toro, probably.
Yeah. So if you're a movie person, a movie hound, you're gonna want to see this, just because it's one of the better films, and it's certainly one of the best of its period in the 40s. So, you can't look at it through modern eyes with nudity and violence and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's not that kind of film. So, but it's really cool, and I advise you go to check it out. The Criterion version has lots of extras there.
It even has an interview with the director from 1979. So I'm guessing that cat people get brought up in that interview.
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely, the more I think about it, more whatever, I can see why Criterion would want it. It's just not your typical. Like, I guess they do some B movies sometimes. They don't do just Hollywood.
And it looked great. The restoration they did was fabulous. I mean, it's made it look even better than normal. So
Yeah.
and it's only 75 minutes long, or 73 minutes long. So
Yeah.
not too bad. Not too
too shabby.
So there you go.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and I guess we'll be back next time for one of your movies, right?
Yep. Until then, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. That was not good. I thought it was. Nope. I gotta push this.
So did you like the extra we did?
Yes, loved it.
It was fun.
Oh, wait, hold on. That's a little. Maybe I can be over here, so it's. Alright.